Now here we see something that's very bizarre. It actually looks like all the surrounding rock, but it's just too curvy. It's like a head coming out there, one other curly tail or whatever. There's straight things sticking out, curves over. There's one thing there that looks like little tentacles that come out there. I've enlarged that picture now. If I was a life form and I wanted camouflage, I would look like that if I was going to live amongst those rocks. Could that possibly be a rock? Look at that. It just struck me now. That process comes across. It looks like it's got two little eyes there. It could be some sort of snail or slug. You got little processes there attaching to the rock. You've got a shadow. That could be even the head there, and that could be part of the body. It looks like a big rock, or there's what looks like a tail behind it, and you got a rod sticking out through there. I can't enlarge that more, but I can enlarge it with pictures. Now I'll try to take closer pictures of the actual foot processes, but something there, it just can't be a rock. And even if you enlarge the tail and stuff like that, it's like, well, and I see, yes, I think we're in luck here. I see two dark like eyes sticking up from the center there. There's two processes there, so how that could be, there's actually three. I should take a picture now. How that could be possibly a rock, I don't think so. Look at that. There's no way that can be a rock. Now I'll have to process the pictures, but I think that's the first time I found something which looks as though it's a life form surrounded by all that rock. See how it's very camouflaged? I'll have a closer look at that as well. It seems to be very camouflaged. We've got that bright metallic object right there as well. So usually the rule is if you see one, look elsewhere. You could see other similar forms. But that to me can't be a rock. And you see how all the others are very twisted and curvy. They could be anything. And that's the beauty of camouflage in this type of environment. I don't see how that could be possibly a rock. Look at it. It's bizarre. I'm not sure if I provided the exact coordinates, so I'll have to enlarge it again and zoom down, but this is the first time I've seen something which a gut instinct is there's no way that could be a rock, especially with that tail curvy down the back. You got two or three of these big black like eyes in the middle. You got this process sticking out. Nature wouldn't have built a rock that just happens to look like a creature. And there's that process there that sort of sticks to the rock. Now in order to zoom in, you'll find again the brown horizon, the grey, that ledge there. We found all these interesting life form structures which in this area here that look like they're camouflaged. So again, zoom in very, very, very slowly, and it just sticks out. It just can't be a rock, but it's superbly camouflaged. It just couldn't be a rock. Now I've zoomed in pictures there where I see like foot processes. There's two or three black beads in there. That looks like a tail curving. That looks like a rod sticking out, and that looks like part of the head. So it's like a twisting, curving type of creature. And that to me looks like a process actually on the a body of it going that way, and that looks symmetrical there coming down. It's perfect camouflage if it is a creature. Look at that. And I'll now zoom in on the pictures and process them. Now this is the analysis of that thing that looked like a octopus creature. There's the tail. There's what looks like a head, like a tortoise. there are these processes coming down from that one. They look like little legs. I don't know, this is very bizarre, this picture. And you see 2 or 3 very dark black like eyes or something in there. So now if you revert it back to the original and then try this exposure system up here, it's just bizarre. I haven't seen a rock like that anywhere. It's very, very bizarre. There it is there again. I don't know how that can be a rock. It could, but what surprised me is that like a tail in the back, this comes out on its own. It's like, looks like a turtle. In there you got these very dark things sticking up, and down there you got like little feet that secure itself to the rock platform, and that long process coming down the back. We could try to adjust the detail on that one as well, see what happens. Exposure. See what I mean? These things just happen to come out of there. They're like 3 dark objects, like eyes or sensation devices. It's just very bizarre. It just doesn't add up to be a rock, especially that long, like twisting object down the back looks like a tail. Now on top of this, I'll try to adjust the detail here again. Sharpen image. So it has been now altered. We'll try to do it once more, see if it works. Alter the histogram. The highlights. There we go. This is now working. This is helping it. Something there just doesn't look as though it's a rock, and I've seen a lot of strange rocks, so I'm the last person to say this is a creature when it could be just a crazy rock shape that I've seen, but it just hasn't got the formation structures of being a rock, especially with that tail coming from out the back. It's curvy. This thing looks like a rod coming out of there. This thing looks like it's got a muscle groups or something like that. It looks like a lizard shape. There's things down the bottom to secure to the rock ledge, and these black things hidden in that pouch there. That doesn't add up to be a rock. It's very bizarre, isn't it? I think we have a creature. My gut feeling is this is actually a creature. Go back to the other picture. This is where I've zoomed in on little things sticking out of the pouch and also those legs there. So I'll see if I can adjust the detail. First I'll use it with this technique, and then I'll use it with sharpen image here, see what we can do with it. But to me this is the first thing I've found that looks like it is a enlarged type of creature. And adjust exposure. So let's play around with it now. Here we go. We might be doing something. The highlights are important here. And here you'll see these 2 or 3 black like eyes or tentacles sticking out. Maybe we'll play with the contrast. Very bizarre, isn't it? I can't do much there, unfortunately. Not much I can do with that picture. It's just too much zoomed in. Something tells me this is the first time I think we've seen something that could be camouflaged to look like a creature. Now this is the actual head of it. It looked like the head. If I can adjust the detail on this to show eyes or something, I'm really doing well, but I don't think I can. It's just so... it just looked like a turtle's head. See what I mean? The mouth, the eyes there on each side. But obviously that's my imagination running overtime. Can't do much with that picture. This is a close-up of these black things inside, like the pouch. Now, I can just prickly do it this way, it's quick. And it does come up on this one. I'll try to enlarge it. There it is again. Very good close-up, noise reduction, colour, and exposure. There's something there. There's three of them. They're like very dark tentacles. That's all we can do with that one, but the best indication picture would be this one. Now I'll just see if we can revert that back to the original, but something there doesn't add up, so that's why I keep on analysing these pictures if anything more sticks out. But the curvy tail, this like head process, the things in there, these like little hooks or little tentacles or feet that come out of the main process to grab the rock there, and that looks like it's symmetrical. You see the line coming down, then you see that triangular shape. It looks like it's alive as opposed to just being a rock, especially with that tail curve like that. And the shadows are there as well, show that's obviously just a process coming out, and these black things like hidden in the pouch. It's bizarre, I know, but I don't know what to make out of it. So I'll have to now download this and hope someone else can analyze these pictures better than I can. Here's the other one, where we zoom in on that object. Let's do it again. You can see those two or three black things like antennas sticking out of the pouch, and these things look like feet down there, and that's a line that goes right down the center, and that's symmetrical there. Interesting. The best picture is probably that one there. It's a very ugly thing, isn't it? But obviously it serves the purpose of being very well camouflaged. Now we have seen this before, where that picture that I analysed, it looks like a rock that leaves crawl marks. So we have seen this before. We asked the question, could this possibly be an animal? Now we have seen something like this in one other Mars picture, and that looks like it's got tentacles sticking out, but there was no crawl marks, so that's why we couldn't comment on that one. Now I'll just pause it for a second. Now it shouldn't be that unusual, because we have found the rock pond, or the water pond at Rock Nest. So this is actually a zoom in picture where you see, obviously that's a liquid accumulates down the bottom there, and it leaves those reflections. So yes, we can understand now there's water, there's soil, there's sunlight, so there should be life forms. Now in the previous episode, my first indication of any life form that's not a plant was this thing here. It looked like a rock. So again, we've got something that looks like a rock. It's camouflaged, but it left that trail mark all the way up to it, and then you've got this thing curled up that starts to go into that trail mark. It's obviously going into it after it was formed, and that was my first indication something is up here. And you'll see those holes like where creature would come out. You'll see this thing wrapped up like a rattlesnake, and obviously it comes into that after it was produced, not before. Because if that was dragging through it when that was there before, that would have been pushed out. So we've got indications of movement happening and life forms. See what I mean? That was a previous episode, and that episode was called, let me go check. That episode was called Mars, Sign of Life, Crawl Marks in Soil. So that's where for the first time I've started to analyse the fact that I'm actually finding crawl marks, drag marks. Now we do have wind there, we have soil, so this can't be years and years old, and it can't be just that this object decides to go straight then and make a turn of 45 degrees. So it could be the objects are camouflaged as rocks. That thing is starting to uncoil and go into the curve mark, And up here between the rocks we've got these entrances, or like holes, and then there's a pathway that leads down. So could it be the life forms there are mostly nocturnal, like deserts on Earth, and they're camouflaged? Here's a picture of those exits, and here's that thing, it looks like it's uncoiling and coming into that pathway. So that was the first time I saw things that could be, here it is, a close-up there. Actually, it's very beady, it's like a rattlesnake or something like that, and there's a process that comes into that pathway. So I'll do that trick, noise reduction, color, see if we can make it come up. So that was my first indication things could be camouflaged. I've seen trail marks through the soil, and it's not the life form that we would expect, like lizards or snails or things like that. And I found all these other objects here, obviously that just look like they're growths or some sort of cactus formation. Um, um, so obviously these pictures that I found are just too bizarre on their own to be just like that. There looks like a cactus formation that just grows there. We found that other picture of that one there as well. It doesn't seem to be a rock. It just seems to be some sort of growth. I haven't seen rock shape, and that was near the water hole that I found. Then we saw again. Here's the classic. When I saw that, I realised, hey, hang on, that can't be a rock. So this is actually growing inside a big cavity in the rock. This was in a previous episode, and you'll see what looks like a blue cactus just growing there. So it absorbs sunlight. You've probably got moisture can form in that cavity as soil, so you have a base for the roots. Or it could be a crystalline formation, but that was my first indication that there could be life. That looks like it just can't be a rock growing like that inside a rock cavity. So there we go.